Well, that takes care of that. Hello to all my riders out there, more specifically today though, my Pioneer 500 owners, because today I'm going to go over a little more maintenance on my Pioneer 500. Now I've already gone over the oil change on this guy, and so today we're going to tackle the front differential and rear differential and changing the fluids in that. Now if you've already changed the oil in this guy or watched my video, changing the differential fluid is actually easier than that because you don't have to take apart all the body panels from under the seat like you do to get to the oil filter. Everything's pretty much exposed, so this, I would say, is actually easier than changing the oil. All you're going to need, of course, is a catch pan to catch your oil, which a small bucket or container would work as well if you don't have an actual catch pan like this. You need a 10mm wrench or socket, and a 17mm wrench or socket. Of course, you need a couple quarts of oil. The front takes 17.2 US ounces. The rear takes like 5.1 US ounces. But again, you'll see as we go, you pretty much just fill to the top of the fill line, so you don't actually have to measure it. As long as you got a couple quarts, that'll be enough. And one thing that's going to make it really easy for you guys is to pick up one of these hand pumps. I'll go over how this works later on, but you'll be able to see why I suggest picking one of these up, especially when you can get these for pretty cheap. So let's go ahead and dig in here. I'm going to start with the front because I'm at the front of the machine. So follow along, and hopefully this will give you the confidence to tackle this simple, easy project yourself. First thing we're going to do here is to drain our old oil, of course. And if you guys see, right, see if I can get this. Here is our drain plug. Here's our front axle. This is on the driver's side. And there's this 10mm bolt right here that we need to pop off, and that'll drain our oil. A little tricky to get in here too, but at least get in here to where you guys can see it. But these should not be overly tight, so they'll come out pretty simple. Boop, and there it goes. Ugh, get my hand stuck. There she drains. We'll give this a good 10-15 minutes or so to drain. Now I'll also take, and I'm going to crack open our fill bolt. Let a little air through easier. Help it drain a little faster. If you guys want to, you can also maybe jack up the one side. I've done that in the past just to speed it up a little bit. You don't have to do that. It'll still drain pretty much all of the oil out without having to tip it to one side. It just makes it go a little faster. But I'm in no hurry today, so we'll just let this right on the ground. And of course, once you get all of your fluid drained, you know, finagle your arm in there and put your drain screw back in, and it gets torqued down to only 9 foot-pounds, so you don't want to wrench on it too much. Alright, now that it's time to fill, here's where your little pump I showed you earlier is really going to come in handy. Because as you can see, with everything still put together, in order to get this into here, you're going to make a mess. It's going to be hard to control. So these little pumps here are absolute lifesavers. And how these guys work is pretty slick. I mean, this has a pickup straw. It'll slide in here. This gets inserted into your bottle. And now I can just get in here with the hose and just hit the pump and fill the oil. It's easy to see in there for when I'm getting full, and it doesn't make my arms tired. So again, the front differential takes 17.2 US quarts. Is it quarts? Or liters? I think quarts. No, not quarts. Ounces. It takes 17.2 ounces. If you try to put 17.2 quarts in this thing, you're going to be wasting a lot. But basically all you're doing is you're filling it to the top of the hole. When it starts running out, you've got enough in there. Basically, my rule of thumb of what I go by for changing the differential fluid is if you got a new machine, at the first 100-mile service, definitely change your fluid. And then what I do is I'll check it every oil change. Oop, I'm flowing out. And then I usually change it every other oil change unless I see that it needs to be changed beforehand. Go ahead and take a little, let's spill it out here and oil up our rubber grommet. You want to make sure you always oil up your rubber seals on anything like this. That way as you tighten it, it doesn't catch, get in the bind and kink, and then you'll have a leak. Putting just a little bit of oil on it will allow it to freely spin and not catch. And the fill plug is also torqued to 9 foot-pounds. And of course you have to drop it 3 or 4 times to try to get it in there. Now I know it's going to be hard to get a torque wrench in there, so just don't wrench on it real hard like I said before, or else you're going to strip especially the cap out because it's only aluminum. So we'll call this a very light hillbilly grunt. And we're good. Time to move on to the back. Alright, so we're at the back of the Pioneer 500. Our diff is right here, easy to get at. However, changing the fluid in the rear is a little bit more of a hassle than it is the front. Because unlike the front, the drain plug for the rear is not in the side. It's actually underneath. So here we are at the back, and you see here in our skid plates, all these holes. Well, if you look right here towards the back, here is one hole. And that's the one we're going to use to access our drain plug. However, I don't know how well you guys can tell this. Let me get a light in here. If you see, our drain fill hole, or our drain fill plug is right there, off to the side of the hole. So for whatever reason, this hole does not line up with that drain plug. Now whether that is just a miscalculation by Honda, or they just didn't even give that a thought when they did the holes in the skid plate to allow water and debris to drain, I don't know. However, I'm going to do something to take care of this that I have not had time to do in the past when changing my diff fluid, that we won't have to ever worry about it again. And to fix it, I'm just going to use a hole saw and make the hole a little bit bigger, or I guess make it a little oblong. Anyway, I'm going to drill a hole beside the hole that's there that'll allow me to get right up in there too. Well, that takes care of that. So as you guys can see, I simply put another little hole right here that allow me to get right up there into that bolt without having any trouble. Not only that, but that'll allow the oil to drain now better and not just collect on my skid plate and then run out every which way and make it an absolute mess. Because if there's one thing I try to avoid at all costs, it's making messes. And one more thing I did to kind of clean this up a little bit is I just took my utility knife. I mean, that's all you need. This actually isn't that good of a skid plate. I need to see about getting some better ones on this, but anyway, that's beside the point. I just took and cleaned this hole up a little bit, made it look a little better. Instead of having a smaller hole next to a bigger hole, I just kind of cut the tips off that was formed right here, opened her up, and now we can get right in there, no problem. So now with my hole opened up, I'm going to take my 10mm wrench, pop her on the bolt, drain the fluid. See if I can get it all over myself as usual. Here she comes. Oh no! Yeah, not too bad. So, I don't know how well you guys can tell. I probably actually didn't need to change. That rear differential oil looks fantastic. That's 600 miles for my last oil change. Honda recommends changing the oil at the initial 100 miles and then again every 600 miles. Right now I am right around 1,400 miles, so it's due for another change. And again, this is after 600 miles and the oil still looks nice and clear colored. Doesn't smell burnt. So you could probably space a little farther apart for changes. Best rule of thumb, just do what the book says and you should be good to go. And while that's draining down there, I'll go ahead and take a 17mm wrench and crack open my fill plug. And then once we have our drain plug back in, torqued to 9 foot-pounds, we go ahead and refill this the same way we did the front with my little handy dandy pump here. Put her in the fill hole and start pumping away. The back takes about 5.2 ounces, which, why they give it in ounces in the book? And every single thing of oil you get is going to have it in quarts and milliliters. I have yet to figure that out. I guess they do have ounces here on the back, but I mean, anyway. But again, same as the front, pretty much pump the oil in and you start seeing it come out the hole and you'll be good to go. Sing yourself a little medley while you pump. Think about all the Polarises you're going to be able to tow out of the mud and off the truck. Oh, see, I'm gawking and I got it flowing out. And I will let that set a little bit, make sure it works its way down in. Give her another couple pumps just to make sure she's completely full where we need it to be. And see, even though it was pouring out there earlier, I got about 4 or 5 more pumps in before it actually gets to where it needs to be. So again, if you're using a pump like this or just finagling it in with the bottle and squirting it in, take your time, go slow to make sure you don't falsely think that you're full when in fact you're just, oil is getting caught up and running out, and then you're going to be left without having enough oil in there. Clean your O-ring, re-oil it, insert your fill plug, tighten down to, you guessed it, 9 foot-pounds again. Or one light hillbilly grunt. And believe it or not, that is all there is to changing your diff fluid. Now, giving proper amount of time for drainage, around 10-15 minutes both front and back. It'll probably take you about 40-45 minutes to change both the front and the back. So this is no major feat of servicing by any means. It's something you can do easily at home with a couple wrenches and just a little bit of time. So I hope this video was a help to you. I hope gave you the confidence to tackle some of the service on your Pioneer 500 by yourself. And don't forget, if you'd like to see what all is involved with an oil change, I've already done a video of that, so you can just simply click up here and watch that at any time. And although I'm not supporting one right now, you can help support my channel, help it to continue to grow, help me to continue to put out content by going to AppalachianMountainRiders.com and buying your very own Appalachian Mountain Riders t-shirts and decals. And as always, guys, until next time, keep on riding. Appalachian Mountain Riders is brought to you in part by the following. The Honda Side-by-Side Club, because who knows the machines better than the owners that use them every day. Walker Evans Racing. When the path requires more than just ordinary, head on over to WalkerEvansRacing.com. Torque Walker from Torque Masters Industries. When you want to explore the unexplored, head on over to TorqueMasters.com. And by my gracious supporters on Patreon.